To solve equations with absolute values is not hard. There's a very definite procedure of how to do this. And let's start first by thinking about it in general. So the first example right here says solve for x. And basically, right, says find x such that the absolute value of x is 3. So if I ask you, give me a number such that when I take the absolute value, I get 3. So what is the answer? What is x? And if you think about it for a second, you probably said x equals 3. X equals 3 is a solution. But there's another solution, there's another number, such that when you take the absolute value of that number, you get 3. What is it? The other number is x equals negative 3. So x equals negative 3 also works, because the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So that means there's actually two solutions to this equation. Both of these are solutions to this equation. So it happens then that absolute value inequalities oftentimes have two solutions, because there's going to be two numbers that when you take the absolute value of that, you get the desired number. So okay, how about this one? Let's think about this one. What should x be so that the absolute value of 3x equals negative 7? What is x such that when you take the absolute value of 3x, you get negative 7? If you think about it, really there's no number that will work, because no matter what you plug in here, the absolute value of a number can never be negative. There's nothing that I can put in here such that when I multiply by 3 and then take the absolute value, I get a negative number. The absolute value of no number is negative. So that means this has no solution. Okay? And how about this one? 2x minus 5. Absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 5. In this case, like that one, there's two possibilities, because it could happen that 2x plus 5, minus 5 equals 5, but it could also happen that 2x minus 5 equals negative 5, and that would also work. If 2x minus 5 equals negative 5, then when I take the absolute value of that, I do get 5. So that is a possibility. So there's two possibilities, just like in this one. What is inside the absolute value could be 5, but what is inside the absolute value could also be negative 5, and that would be fine. It would work. So that means there's two possibilities, and we have to then consider both possibilities. And each of these possibilities results in an equation that we have to solve and find x from each of these equations. And these happen to be linear equations that we know how to solve. So solving the very first one, just add 5 to both sides. That is going to give me 2x equals 10. And then dividing by 2, you're going to get x equals 5. So that is one possibility. So if you plug in x equals 5 in here, that equation is going to be satisfied. Or you could, let's say, consider this other possibility. In this case, adding 5 as well. You're going to get that 2x equals 0. Negative 5 plus 5 equals 0. And dividing by 2, you're going to get 0 divided by 2. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So x equals 0 is another solution. Both of these are solutions. You can check by just plugging it in there, each of them, and seeing that you get something that is true. So both of these are solutions. And these examples illustrate uh, the general idea of how to solve absolute value equations. So the very first thing you want to do, step one for solving an equation that has absolute values, is to isolate the absolute value. So that is the very first thing you want to do. You want to have the absolute value all by itself on one side of the equation, like in all three examples here. The absolute value is all by itself on one side. I like the left, so typically I'm just gonna have it on the left, but it really doesn't matter. So what you want is to have the absolute value all by itself on one side. So if there's numbers around the absolute value, get rid of them, move them, uh, do whatever you need to do to get rid of those numbers. Okay, once you have the absolute value all by itself, there's two possibilities. Either the absolute value is equal to a positive number, or 0, or it is equal to a negative number. So in other words, two possibilities are it's equal to a negative number or not. If it is equal to a negative number, like in this one, then there's no solution because it is impossible to find that number such that when you take the absolute value, you get negative. So if you have the absolute value equals a negative number, that's impossible. That means there's no solution. So after isolating the absolute value, you get that the absolute value is equal to a negative number, then there's no solution. So you stop. There's nothing to do. Say no solution and it's over. If it is not a negative number, if it is equal to a positive number, such as in this one and in that example, then there's two possibilities. And what you're going to do is you're going to set the quantity inside the absolute value equal to the positive and to the negative, um, to the positive and negative values of the quantity on the other side. So that means you're going to take what is inside the absolute value and you're going to set it equal to whatever number that is, and you're going to also set it equal to the negative of whatever number that was. So you're going to get two equations. And then you're going to solve both equations. So you're going to solve both equations. Okay, so here's another example. So it says solve this absolute value equation. Okay, the very first step is isolate the absolute value. So meaning any numbers around the absolute value need to go. So I need to get rid of that 3 and I need to get rid of that negative 1. So first we get rid of the negative 1. So adding 1 or just moving the negative 1 to the other side is going to give us 3 absolute value of 5x plus 9 equals, well, it's going to be 2 plus 1, and then 2 plus 1 equals 3. Okay? Then we're going to divide both sides by 3. We need to get rid of that 3. So divide both sides by 3. That's going to cancel that. And we're going to get absolute value of 5x plus 9 equals 1. All right. And now we see that we reach the point of having the absolute value all by itself, isolated. So now we think, okay, is it equal to a negative number? If it is equal to a negative number, we stop and we say there's no solution and it's over. If it is not equal to a negative number, then you're going to split this into two equations. One, in this case, equal to positive 1. So it could happen that the inside is equal to 1, or it could happen that the inside is equal to negative 1. Both of these situations are possible. The inside could be positive 1, or the inside could be negative 1. So we got our two equations from there. And then we're going to solve each of these equations, and we're going to get the possibilities for the value of x. So now subtract 9. This is going to be 5x equals 1 minus 9 is negative 8. And divided by 5, you get x could be negative 8/5. And that is one answer. And now solve the other one. Subtracting 9, you're going to get 5x equals negative 1 and negative 9, that's negative 10. And divided by 5, you're going to get 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. Okay, and then these are the two values of x that solve the equation. So there's two answers or two solutions. Okay, now let's do one more example. You should pause the video and try it on your own. So try to solve this equation to see if you followed what I did and understood, and then compare notes with me. So this one says absolute value of 9 minus 2y minus 11 equals 2. Okay, now let's do it. So first thing we want to do is move the 11 because I need the absolute value all by itself. So I'm going to move that, and we're going to get absolute value of 9 minus 2y equals, then I'm moving the 11, so it's going to become plus 11, and 2 plus 11 is 13. So we're going to get absolute value of 9 minus 2y equals 13. Okay, then you stop and say, okay, now that the absolute value is isolated, is it equal to a negative number? If it is equal to a negative number, that's impossible. It means there's no solution, you stop, it's over. But if it is not equal to a negative number, then what you do is you say there's two possibilities. So you're going to get two equations. Either the inside could be 13 in this case, or it could happen that the inside is negative 13. Both situations would work. So it could be either 13 or negative 13. All right, and now you solve for y for each of these equations. All right, so let's start by subtracting 9 here. So you're going to get negative 2y equals, what is 9 minus, 13 minus 9? 13 minus 9, that's 4. All right, and now dividing by negative 2, 4 divided by negative 2, 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. So you have one solution there. And then, now do the same here, subtract 9. So that's going to give us negative 2y equals negative 13 minus 9, that is negative 22. And then dividing by negative 2, negative 22 divided by negative 2 is positive 11. And that's the other solution. Okay, and that's it. In general, when you're solving a linear equation that has absolute values, you're going to get either no solution, either one solution, or two solutions. So those are the only possibilities for a linear equation that has absolute values, either zero solution, one solution, or two solutions. So the zero solution happens when you end up with something like this, the absolute value equals a negative number. That's impossible. If you have the absolute value equals a positive number, you're always going to get two solutions, like here and like that. If you end up with the absolute value equals 0, which we didn't do any example like that, but if that had been a 0, in any of these cases, absolute value of whatever equals 0, then that's the situation in which you get only one solution. Okay, and that is it.